think a lot of people believe things without knowing why they believe them. And very few people take the time to ask the question to themselves, why do I believe what I believe? The reason this has been top of mind for me, like the past day or two, it honestly came from, I guess, a discussion that I had with a buddy from high school about free will. That conversation in and of itself did not make me realize that I hadn't really rethought it, but when I was just reflecting back on that later, it reminded me of all the times that I've had the free will conversation before, and how my answer to that has been my answer in that was something that was essentially formed in like 5th grade, right? Like, and I've never taken the time to think like, does that make sense to me? Is that what I believe? It's just like I found an answer to a hard question that at the time I learned it made sense, and after that I never took the time to reevaluate. And I think so many people do that, and I think that's one step higher than what most people do, which is that they hear something and they don't even evaluate whether or not they believe it. It just sounds good to them. And maybe I guess that's what I did with the free will thing. But I think like politics are a great example of this. Like, if you ask someone, like, you know, what do you think about Donald Trump? And they immediately are just like, fuck that guy, like, he's terrible, this and that. Like, I'm not taking a stance on either side here, but my point is most of these people say all of that, but if you ask them, like, what specifically is it about what he's done that makes you not like him, they're just dumbfounded, which is like, it's just stupid to me. Like, you're just parroting someone else's belief, and you never took the time to think, why do I think this, right? Now, that doesn't mean, like, if I ask you that question and you're able to list, like, yeah, he did this thing that I didn't like, he did that thing that I didn't like, this thing, whatever, great, good for you, then you have a based opinion, right? But most people aren't like that. They're just like, they're very just emotional, and it feels wrong. And it just like someone else said that it was wrong, and so I'm just gonna agree with that. Like, why is that, right? Or even like in the red pill community, which is something I've talked about a couple of times, that's also another good example. Like, I remember actually there was this guy who had this social media account where he would just post clips of him going around asking women, what do you think about Andrew Tate? And they'd be like, fuck him, like, he's a misogynist, this and that, like, he's a terrible guy. And then they would ask, like, he would ask the women, okay, what's something that he's done that exemplifies these negative traits that you said about him? And every single time, you know, they had nothing. And again, I know it's social media. I'm sure he encountered women who were able to give a concrete answer, and he just didn't post it to try and make his point like better. I agree with that. But even if he did, like, and this is an arbitrary number, but it was probably 90-10 towards women that didn't know or weren't able to give a reason, right? And again, this is not me commenting on what I think about Andrew Tate. Like, I've already done that in a previous video. But it's just the idea that you can have such a strong emotion around a belief that is not rooted in any fact or logic is, I think, pretty dumb. And I'm not faulting people for doing that. I mean, I guess I am faulting. What I should say is, I know it's not easy to stop doing that. Like, it's very easy to just hear a belief that sounds good and be like, yeah, this is, I'm just gonna parrot this as well. It's very hard to sit down and actually think, like, why do I believe what I believe? I think like a great practice for this is hearing two opposing sides of an argument and then sitting with both of those and just, I guess, meditating on it for a bit and like try and figure out, based on your value system, based on your life philosophy, what do you think about this issue? That is much harder to do than just listen to the first guy you hear and be like, yeah, that's good. Like an example of this in my life. So I was having a conversation with some friends at dinner the other day about religion, like Sikhi in particular. And there was a bunch of things that were being talked about there, but one point that one of my friends brought up was the fact that he didn't believe in this idea of a soul, of a separate kind of entity from your physical body. And then this morning I saw someone online have a take about just saying, I absolutely believe that I am flesh and bone, and that's one thing, and then I have a soul, which is another thing. So pretty concretely opposing views here. And I sat with that for a while, and okay, not a while. I sat with it for like 5 minutes maybe, which sounds like a short time, but honestly, given the fact that some people, me included, like have an idea from 10 years ago and haven't taken even a minute in the past 10 years to think about it, 5 minutes of really intentional, like unbroken focus of thinking about something is a pretty long time. So I thought about it for a bit and I didn't really come up with an answer, which is another reason as to why it's hard. It's not like if you get over that initial hump of finding the time and the space to sit down that you will absolutely get an answer. Oftentimes it takes a lot more than just doing that, which is why it's not an easy thing to do, which in turn is why the majority of people don't do it. So yeah, I've just been trying to be a lot more intentional about why I do what I do, why I believe what I believe. Like another like part of that conversation at dinner the other day was about, as Sikhs, why do we keep our hair? Why do we not ever cut our hair? Why do we never shave? And I had this, anytime anyone asked me that, to be honest, for the past, I don't even know, maybe 4 or 5 years, I would tell them this explanation of whatever God gave us is perfect, so why would we alter that at all, right? And then I would go on to say, which is the same logic as to why we don't get tattoos. And then someone brought up like the idea of fingernails, which it sounds like such a trivial argument, but it made me rethink a little bit, like, wow, like, you're right, like, does this explanation of why I keep my hair make sense? And I don't know, honestly, what I think about that explanation of it, but at this dinner, like, something that was brought up that I already knew, but that was reminded to me, was the fact that we keep our hair and we wear turbans because it is part of our unique identity, and that was like the entire point of it, to make us stand out. I'm not gonna go into actual like facts and figures per se, like about who said what in Sikhi, because I'm not educated enough to give an accurate explanation on that, and I would not want to give something inaccurate if I can help it. But that explanation, and again, it wasn't something that was new to me, that's something that's been taught to me like since I was a kid, but it just it just made me rethink, like what is this belief rooted in? What is this belief of keeping my hair rooted in? And this kind of, I guess, spiritual, amorphous sort of explanation that I had before of God gave me it and it's perfect, and that's why, like, I realized that's not really what made sense to me. And what does make sense to me is the fact that it makes me different and it gives me a unique identity, and I enjoy and embrace that about myself. Like, I love the idea that I can be picked out from a crowd. I love the idea that in an ideal world, people know who Sikhs are, they know what their values are, they know that they're helpful, so they know that if they're ever in a situation where they need help and they see someone with a bug on, with a turban on, they can be like, let me go ask that guy, or let me go ask that girl. I know they'll be able to help me. That's such a powerful idea for me. The fact that I would hate, honestly, like, if I walked around looking like everyone else. Like, how it just doesn't, because I don't know, you don't stand out. And, like, I don't know, some people like to blend in, and I definitely like to blend in for good or for bad in some ways in my life, but that is not one of them. And it absolutely comes with the burden of responsibility, like my boy Spidey says, right, or Uncle Ben says, with great power comes great responsibility. So it does, burden you with the fact that you are part of this community of people that carry this identity, and things that you do affect that differently than it would for someone who looks like everyone else. What do I mean by that? It's like, if someone sees a Sikh bullying someone, hurting someone, because of the fact that they look different, that person that observed that event will, next time when they see a Sikh, they're going to assign that action to that new person, that new Sikh that didn't have anything to do with the first person that they saw, right? They're going to be like, oh, I saw a guy with a turban bullying someone before. This guy probably bullies people too, right? And I know it's a little more nuanced than that, and ideally, people would not think that at all. They would think, like, this is a new person, that person was separate. But that's not how people think, right? And it comes with a really big burden of responsibility. And I can definitely attest to that in my life, there have been so many times where the idea or the attractiveness of wanting to do something bad, like stealing, cheating, whatever, there have been so many times in my life where that option, the attractiveness of that option, I've been able to shut down simply because of the fact that I know that, fuck, dude, if someone sees me as a Sikh doing this, like, it's not a good look, right? And again, that doesn't mean that, like, dude, I've definitely lied, I've stolen, I've cheated, all these things, like, but the fact that I have this extra burden of responsibility makes those happen less frequently, and I think that's such a beautiful burden to have. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but I say burden because some people view it as a burden, and I think that I'm hesitating because I was about to say something that might, like, rattle some shells, but fuck it, like, we're not supposed to care what other people think, right? Like, I think that a big reason a lot of people cut their hair in Sikhi is precisely because of that burden, right? Like, they want to partake in whatever, like, sin it is, and they don't like the fact that it feels wrong to them to, like, wear this turban and at the same time do this thing. And that sounds very high and mighty of me. I know that, like, I mean, I do those things as well. Absolutely. Like I mentioned it before, and there's many things above and beyond that I've done that I'm, you know, whatever. My only point is, like, I don't, like, I'm not perfect out there, and like the only reason I say that is because I don't mean to judge these people who cut their hair, but I'm just trying to ascribe a reason to it, right? And it makes sense. Like it's definitely not easy. There's so many times where, like, I literally, like, I want to do something and I'm like, fuck, dude, like, if someone sees me doing this, like, it's just cooked, like, because I'm just gonna make other Sikhs look bad. But at the same time, the opposite effect of that in turn is so much more powerful. Like, if enough Sikhs are out there doing good, then, and enough people on the other side of Sikhi are educated, right, then this whole communal good, this idea of communal good that we're trying to achieve, would be so beautiful, that someone could see someone with a turban, someone in need of help could see someone with a pug on, with a turban on, and be like, I know that I can find safety in that person. I know that person can help me. How amazing is that? And you, as a Sikh, you have such a great amount of influence and power to make that vision come to life. And I just think, I've been thinking about that a lot the past few days, and I think that is so beautiful. And I think that is, like, that reason as to why I keep my hair. Honestly, whether or not it's accurate to Sikhi, or I mean, I think it is, but that gives me meaning behind it. And now I feel a lot more confident in, if someone was to ask me why do I keep my hair, I would be a lot more confident in giving them that answer. I keep my hair because it makes me look different and it makes me stand out. And if someone sees me and they need help, they know that they can come to me and ask me for help, and they know that I'm not going to judge them, I'm not going to hurt them, I'm going to be helpful. It's the same thing with the Kara, right, or any of the Panch Kakar. The 5, for any person who's not Sikh that's watching, the Panch Kakar, like the 5 articles of faith that Sikhs wear. The Kara is one of them. Gase is another one. Gase meaning uncut hair. But that's another thing. Like, the Kara is another example of that. Like, the same friend, and if he watches this, he knows. He knows who he is. But that same friend was, like, you know, talking about the Kara and how people ascribe meaning to it by saying, like, it's a circle and it represents that God is never ending and whatever. And I used to explain it in the exact same way, but it's so much more grounding to me to think, like, this is just another reason, this is another thing that makes me look different, and I like to look different because it means that I'm more recognizable. And that just makes more sense to me, and I feel better saying that. So, like, when I wear my Kara and I feel it every time I move my hand, I move my arm, I feel it, you know, rattling around. It's like a reminder that, like, it gives me power. Like, it makes me feel powerful that I have this thing that other people don't have. It makes me unique. It makes me recognizable. That just makes a lot more sense to me, because I think where people veer off of, I don't want to say Sikhi in general, but at least with the appearance side of things, is that they aren't able to find meaning, right, in why they do the things. It ties back really well to what I was talking about before, of having this belief or following this belief without ever thinking why you don't follow it. And that's how it is with so many Sikhs, right? Like, as a kid, they grow up in a Sikh household, their parents tell them, don't cut your hair, don't do this, right? Everyone in their Gurdwara community, don't do this. They go to Khalsa school, don't cut your hair. And then once they get to an age where they have a little more autonomy and a little more maturity to think for themselves, then they finally have that thought 14, 15, 16, 17 years later, why do I keep my hair? And they try and find meaning in these superficial explanations of God made it and it's perfect and this and they're like, that doesn't make sense. And I don't fault them at all for that. It doesn't make sense. But the unfortunate thing is that they stop there and they say it doesn't make sense, and then they cut their hair. And I think it's, if you have the courage to dig deeper and find meaning in it, then you come out on the other side stronger. And I think that's like what I feel now, that if someone was to ask me now, why do I keep my hair, I would feel much more confident in the answer that I'm giving, as opposed to some rehearsed fucking script that I came up with 10 years ago. So yeah, whole point of this video, challenge your own beliefs, challenge them often. Take the time to reflect. Take the time to grow the roots of your own beliefs. Don't let them be rooted in sand.